Hello, my name is Kathy Ebersberger. I'm the chair of the JEDI Task Force of the League of Women Voters of Colorado. For those of you who don't know, JEDI stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. I'd like to welcome you all, and the first thing I'd like to do is introduce our executive director, Beth Hendricks. Beth takes care of all the League of Women Voters issues in the state of Colorado. So she's the linchpin of our group. Beth, do you want to say a few words?
Uh, uh, Welcome. Thank you all for being here. And thank you especially to Kathy and Shauna and her team for setting up this great evening.
I'd like to set a few ground rules for tonight. I'd just like to remind you that when you registered for this program, you agreed to abide by the rules of the League of Women Voters of the United States and the League of Women Voters of Colorado, as set out in each league's bylaws and official policies, including the nonpartisan policy and the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. You also agreed that all knowledge and information gained from proprietary information and discussion tonight is the property of the League of Women Voters of Colorado and shall be regarded as strictly confidential and shall remain the sole and confidential property of the League of Women Voters. It's most important tonight that you agreed to not engage in any behaviors or actions that are harassing, threatening, or physically or verbally abusive toward any League of Women Voters member, employee of the League of Women Voters, or member of the public. And you agreed not to create an environment that's intimidating, hostile, or offensive. This includes all online activity. You also said that you understood that photos and videos of you tonight may be taken in connection with your participation, and these photos and videos are the sole property of the League of Women Voters of Colorado. We have a great program for you tonight. This is part 2 of a 3-part series on transgender individuals. Many of you were present 2 weeks ago when we had a program entitled Everything You Wanted to Know About Transgender People and Were Afraid to Ask, which was a Trans 101 program. After a short introduction to transgender topics, we had an opportunity for you to ask questions of one of our transgender members. Tonight, we are going to hear from 2 transgender individuals who will tell their stories in their own words. We're allocating 90 minutes for this program. We're going to lead off with Dr. Sherry Swolkowski, who is a retired Army colonel. We'll then have a short video presentation, a slideshow featuring 5 trans individuals, and that is going to be narrated by the member of our task force, Jenna Yeager. And to close out the program, we'll hear from Stellan Knowles, and his presentation is called From Survival to Joy. I want to mention up front that this is a very difficult time for trans people. Things are changing all the time. There are some severe losses to some people, including loss of employment, loss of medical care. There are hate messages being generated from the rhetoric coming out of the administration. And many people are too busy to do advocacy work at this time. So it's important that we go away from here and advocate for them. We have to, we know that advocacy bandwidth is limited, but we can advocate for change and we can educate people in our own social networks. So first we'll hear from Dr. Swolkowski. Dr. Swolkowski, hold on. is a retired Army colonel. She had 35 years of service in the US military. She's a senior out transgender veteran in the United States. And I want to correct the flyer, which says service member. Actually, Dr. Swilkowski is retired, so she is a veteran, not a service member. Colonel Swilkowski holds a PhD in leadership for the application of learning and service, and she has a master's degree in management and organizational behavior. She's a graduate of the U.S. Army Command and General Staff School at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and also of the Army War College Strategic Defense Strategy course in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Dr. Swilkowski is a career infantry officer. She's commanded a light infantry company. She was deployed twice. She served in a battalion, brigade, state, and department level staffs. She retired in December 2004 as the Director of Manpower and Personnel for the Wisconsin National Guard. After her retirement, Dr. Swilkowski was a lead course instructor at the U.S. Army Force Management School at Fort Belvoir, where she was abruptly fired in 2007 when she transitioned. She went on to serve as a senior analyst for the Assistant Chief of Staff for Installation Management at the Pentagon, and she was a Regional Human Resources Director for the U.S. Forest Service here in Colorado. Dr. Swilkowski is an internationally known advocate for transgender rights and trans military service. She played a role in influencing the Department of Defense to acknowledge and recognize that they had service members still serving in silence 5 years after the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. She has keynoted both military and civilian pride events across the country. And in 2015, the Department of Defense recognized her as the first female infantry officer among the ranks when they corrected her retirement paperwork to reflect her authenticity. Dr. Swilkowski has been featured on CNN, MSNBC, Headline News, and Al Jazeera. She's been published in the Washington Post, the New York Times, the LA Times, Huffington Post, and Washington Blade. She presented at the 2020 Gay and Lesbian Medical Association and the World Professional Association for Transgender Health annual conferences. And currently, Dr. Swilkowski serves on the Advocacy Advisory Council for the Modern Military Association of America. And finally, she's on the board of the ACLU in Wisconsin. Dr. Swilkowski resides in Madison, Wisconsin area near her 2 children, and she's the Oma to 6 grandchildren. So Dr. Swilkowski, welcome, and thank you very much for agreeing to participate today.
Well, thank you very much for the invite. And as I mentioned earlier, it's always good to get back to Colorado, even if it's via Zoom. I'll be sharing a little bit about my story tonight, a little bit about the research I did and how it affects trans people and what we found, and specifically the active duty service members who are trans. And a little bit about current events and what the environment is, not only for trans people in general, trans military people, but also cisgender folks as well. Thanks again for the introduction. You mentioned 35 years of military service. It was almost all with the Wisconsin National Guard. It was almost all as a full-time employee. I spent 13 years as a federal civil servant when I started, and was fortunate enough to convert over to active duty and spent the last 20 years on active duty. The confusion about who I am was the result of that I had to hide back in my day. So I just had the 20th anniversary of my retirement on New Year's Eve of last year. And I had to hide who I was. in order to serve my country. And that had a lot of issues associated with it, as one could imagine. But, looking back on my career, I probably did a few things well to earn promotion to full colonel. But I always look back and I sometimes wonder how much better of a leader, of an officer, of a soldier, a mentor, a friend, and just a human being I could have been had I been allowed to serve authentically in uniform. So that still comes back to haunt me once in a while. I'm going to apologize in advance here. I've got a 4-year-old golden retriever who is my service dog, and she's may get excited about something occurring outside. We've got some construction, and so if she does, you might hear a bark here and there. But I started my transition in 2005, the year after I retired from the military. And it was very much involved. It took me 5 years to complete transition. I guess if you ever complete transition, that's debatable with many folks. But my big turning point was in 2006 when I moved to Washington, D.C. area and became the lead instructor for one of the courses at the Army Sports Management School at Fort Belvoir. And probably 7 or 8 months into that, I made a decision that I needed to live up to my own expectations instead of the expectations of other people around me. And part of that was made possible by these support groups that I found out there. There were about 10 of us. We were all middle-aged and all transitioning at the same time. I think everyone was male to female. And we went by the acronym MATS, middle-aged transsexuals. The terminology is a little dated, but it was a wonderful opportunity and started me on my journey. Took leave from the Army Sports Management School, told the director there that I would be back in 6 weeks, and then I would be back as Sherry. And of course, they had not had any knowledge or any firsthand workings with a transgender individual. So I was very excited when I came back after 6 weeks. I was ready, willing, and able to get going back to the same job that I was. The director was a retired 3-star, and he welcomed me back that morning by saying thanks for helping us with this course, coming back from Wisconsin to do that. And his second sentence was, "We've already hired your replacement." So a very successful background with absolutely no change to my knowledge, skills, or abilities to do the job. And I, like many other trans people, was on the outside looking in at that point. The silver lining, of course, came just a couple months later when I was hired into the Pentagon as a senior analyst. And there, in what many people would think is a very conservative environment, my experience was nothing but positive. I was identified as an exceptional performer, and really just people appreciating me for the skill sets that I brought to the organization, which is the way it should be. In 2010, I left the Pentagon and came out to Denver and spent 3 years with the Forest Service there as HR director for the Rocky Mountain region of the Forest Service. But I also experienced some discrimination there. It wasn't with the Forest Service, it was with another agency out there because of my DD 214. It still had a male name on it. And if I applied for any other jobs, people noticed that. So in 2013, I came back to Wisconsin to be near my kids and grandkids, and I started becoming more vocal and more of an advocate for trans military service. So I went back to Washington, D.C. frequently. In 2014, I was in D.C., and one of the folks I used to work with at the Pentagon asked me to come in and see him. And that's what led to my DD 214 being corrected. So I filled out some paperwork, I pointed out the injustices that I had suffered because of the erroneous name on my DD 214, and that we got corrected, which was really something at the time because they don't correct DD 214s for name changes for females that get married or what have you. So with that, I had a little bit of a platform that I lent to influencing the Department of Defense to overturn the existing ban. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was overturned in 2010 and implemented by the Department of Defense in 2011, but there were still people serving in silence. So we were very fortunate to do that, to do it so quickly. And I was thinking things were looking pretty good at the time, and they were.
Mary,
But
Can I interrupt you for just a second? I'm really sorry. Could you explain to them what the significance of a DD 214 is? I'm sure a lot of people don't know.
Sure, the DD 214 is your record of military service. It also provides information for veterans' preference for hiring and things like that. And if you're have a Veterans Administration disability rating, it can also help you with some special hiring authority. So it's a very important document. It's the document to identify all of your time in service, your awards, everything is on your deployments. So that's what the DD 214 is. So I had the opportunity to help a little bit as part of a larger team to get the original ban overturned, and Secretary Ash Carter made that announcement on June 30th, 2016. Like I said, I thought we were on easy street. However, that only lasted about a year and a half. In 2017, there were some tweets that came out in July that banned transgender people from joining, and policy was changed about several months later at DOD. So we rolled that out. Those people that were serving could remain serving. They could remain getting medical care. And when Joe Biden came into office in 2021, he immediately rectified that situation and allowed transgender civilians to again join. And we were well on the way. So for 4 years, we had a very nice run, if you will. And then the election hit in November of 2024. And of course, in January of this year, there was an executive order that came out similar to the one that was put out in 2017, but with the added difference that those people who were transgender, serving in uniform and receiving medical care were required to take the uniform off. So that's a significant difference than what we've seen in the past. So who are we talking about? The Department of Defense will tell you they don't have any real statistics on folks that are trans, but they are estimating anywhere from 2,500 to 4,500 folks are currently serving in uniform and face expulsion. The estimate with trans people is much higher than that. There are somewhere between 25,000 and 45,000 folks. So somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000 are still in the closet. I want to switch to my research. It was dated September of 2019 when DOD responded to a Freedom of Information Act request that I submitted. And their own data at that time showed that 86% of trained service members at that time were either senior officers or senior enlisted. There's been an update to that that only talks about trained service members that are senior enlisted, and that's still at 73%. So that's an awful lot of seasoned leadership experience in uniform currently. So where do we stand with the ban? There's 3 court cases. The third one was just filed yesterday, but they exist in DC, in Seattle, and New Jersey. However, active duty service members, the folks that are being forced out or being forced to make decisions before the merits of the case can be determined. So they have three options. They can apply for a voluntary separation by March 26th. That's coming up next week. That will provide them with some incentives for separation pay. If they don't do that, they will be processed as they are found, starting March 26th with involuntary separation with fewer incentives and higher risks. Those folks that are staying on and fighting for the good of the cause, they're going to jeopardize everything. But it's some hard decisions. There's been a lot of anxiety, a lot of things going on in the minds of the military transgender service members. So I mentioned the court date. The only one that's really been active is the one in the DC District Court. There has been some arguments they had 2 days of arguments in February and 1 day last week on the 12th. And it is clear that there is no data in Trump's executive order or the new DOD policy to back their claims that trans service members cannot meet the high standards. They've been meeting the high standards since 2016 and have been deployed worldwide. So what this is about is one person's opinion, but that doesn't make it factual. One of the things I learned in my doctoral studies was the terminology for epistemology. If you're not familiar with it, it's the study of knowledge and how we know what we know. And there's a whole lot of difference between what is said and what is proven through data. So some of the active duty service members are in fact staying and fighting the battle. Some are exiting, taking the voluntary separation because of the extreme, I'd call it mental health stress that they and their families are being subjected to by being human ping pong balls or whatever, maybe human yo-yos is a better term, based on who's in office and what they can expect from them. The good news is that we are expecting as early as tomorrow a ruling from the DC District Court Judge Reyes, and we believe that we're on firm ground that she's going to issue an injunction that will put this whole thing on hold to gain our service members some more time to figure out really what they want to do. The 3 days of testimony proved one thing, and that was that it was amateur hour for the government attorneys that representing the Department of Justice. It was the judge last week had to halt the proceedings and take a 30-minute break to allow the defense attorneys from DOJ to study the documents that they were utilizing as their references to defend their stance because they couldn't answer basic questions. So, but what we're seeing in the country here is affecting more than just trans veterans, transgender service members and veterans. And I'll point out that Friday, the Veterans Administration rescinded a policy that required the Veterans Administration to treat trans vets, to treat us with dignity and respect. So we're losing legal recognition from the VA. They are restricting our bathroom use in federal buildings. It's now okay to misgender me and my fellow trans vets. We can refuse to use our names or do worse. So legally, we can no longer exist in spaces as ourselves. So the only thing that they will do for us is, if we're already established with them, is that they will supply us with our prescriptions, whether that's for hormone replacement therapy or what have you. So that's the trans veterans that are being affected. Trans adults are affected throughout the country by this new administration. 2 states have already banned healthcare for trans adults. And just since the first of this year, an additional 8 states have introduced bills to do the same thing. As far as trans kids, I'm sure that, well, I don't know that. I guess that's why I'm here, so I won't make any assumptions. But 26 states, all of them with Republican legislatures and governors, have prohibited healthcare for trans kids up through the age of 18. Wisconsin here has introduced 8 anti-trans bills this year. And this is the 3rd time around for this. So luckily, in Wisconsin, we have a governor that comes from the school system and understands the importance of protecting trans kids. So he has vetoed every one of them. That's really kind of a big waste of time. And you may have heard how cisgender women, someone whose gender aligns with their anatomy and what they were assigned at birth, are now being misgendered or misidentified in restrooms. You may have heard about the one in Washington, D.C., because it was Representative Boebert from your fine state that did the misidentification and was forced to apologize to the woman she misidentified as trans. So there's some definite cruelty and erasure of our history happening. Minorities are also being exposed, I guess is what I would say, being targeted, not more than exposed, they're being targeted by this administration. So minorities are being erased from websites across the administration. As an example, the Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C. has deleted pages that were directed people to General Colin Powell's service record. Just heard that the DOD has eliminated, well, and the other ones that they've done at Arlington National was the same thing pertains to Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is buried there. That's been erased from their website. And DOD just lately has eliminated a story about the famous Iwo Jima flag raising photo that was taken because one of the individuals was a Navajo code talker. So we're in a different world right now. Frankly, it reminds me a lot of this country in the 1930s with all of the Nazis, all of the people in the U.S. that supported the Nazi movements that was happening in Germany. And if you're unfamiliar with that, I will just say that if you haven't heard of the Hirschfeld Clinic, Magnus Hirschfeld was an MD in Germany that founded a clinic in Berlin in 1919 for members of the LGBTQ community. And in 1933, the Nazis raided the building. They took 20,000 volumes of research, much of which pertained to transgender people, piled it in the street and burned it, and then killed half of the staff. And they're coming for the trans people already, obviously, in this country. In closing, I want to share with you that my dad, who I'm so very proud of, fought the Nazis at the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. In late January, he was captured outside of Puchheim, Luxembourg, and spent several months at Stalag B in Baden, Germany. He was liberated on Easter Sunday, April 1st, 1945. That morning, this prison camp held Allied prisoners. At one time, they had up to 25,000. But that morning, the Germans had assembled the prisoners in the fields surrounding Stalag B. And they placed machine guns in front of them and manned the crews. But before they could fire and commit a heck of a lot of awful war crimes, another soldier ran up to the machine gun crews and said that the American tanks were busting through the front gate. And so, like my dad, right now I'm fighting Nazis. The only difference is I'm doing it here in the US. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that folks may have.
Thank you very much. One person would like to know the names of the pending cases that you were talking about.
Sure. The one in DC is Talbot versus Trump. It's Talbott. And it's, I think there's 6 or 8 folks there. 2 of them are friends of mine that I've interviewed during my dissertation and told their stories as part of my dissertation. The second one is Schilling versus Trump. That's the one that's being held in Seattle. And that one is first going to meet on March 25th, which is problematic in itself because the last day, well, there's one more day left, I guess, before service members need to make choices, pending the announcement that we're hoping is going to provide an injunction and block the initial one here from the DC court. And the third one that was just filed yesterday is in New Jersey. And that one is, it's Ireland versus versus Hegstaff. And I think Jenna knows Special Agent Logan Ireland. He and one other member of the Air Force filed that yesterday.
Could you talk a little bit about, I understand the decision that they have to make by March 26th. Could you talk more about what, I know it makes incredible consequences. So like, if you have a voluntary separation, is it like a retirement? I thought you had to serve like 20 years to retire. Is that not true? Or, I mean, what's happening to these people that are younger than that or that haven't worked that long?
Sure. So the average transgender serviceman has served anywhere from 12 to 21 years and has multiple deployments. 20 years is normally what's required for the full retirement. There is a temporary early retirement that they're still offering to people with 18 to 20 years of service, and anyone between 7 years and 7 through 17 years is being faced with a choice for voluntary or involuntary separation. So what they've done is that part of the voluntary separation includes pay, and depending on your number of years and your rank or your grade, your pay grade, it could get into 6 figures. So it's enticing for some folks, but it never goes as far as it should, if you will. And one of the things, there are some paybacks that are due. If people have get a VA disability rating and get paid for that, they have to pay some of the financial part of it back. And if they have had signing bonuses, re-enlistment bonuses, some of that stuff can be recouped as well. And when you get to we think, and we say that because we don't know yet, but we think if you volunteer to leave, to be separated, you'll get an honorable discharge. So if you stay and fight and are involuntarily separated, if the injunction doesn't come through tomorrow or before March 26th, then you're risking your characterization of service. It may not be an honorable discharge. So,
and one of the effects of that would be employment possibilities, or?
Yes, employment, schooling, funding for GI Bills and things like that.
Okay.
So there's a lot rolled up into it.
And then it's not only a matter of pay, though, it's like your entire life's purpose. Can you talk a little bit about that? Your purpose as a soldier or as an airman, your whole self-concept.
It's a special calling. You know, we know that there's only there's very few people that are even eligible to meet these standards. Transgender people tend to enlist at twice the rate of the general population. So percentage-wise, there's more people that are serving trans. And I'll say that these folks are in it to be part of something bigger than themselves. I mean, they have a long-term plan. Like I say, the senior listed and senior officers, I think the highest ranking individual that's out there now, there's several of them. I mean, when I started, I was the first one. There's got to be a couple dozen also, colonels or Navy captains out there now. And one of them is an astronautical engineer, the proverbial rocket scientist. And she is just a wonderful individual. I mean, you talk about intellect, you talk about these folks are fully qualified for their jobs. They have been. They've been meeting the standards. And now someone subjectively says they don't meet the standards. Well, the standards haven't changed. So it's again, really hearsay. And they're going to have a tough time defending that in court. And we expect the court case to get all the way up to the Supreme Court again.
And then it's not only your job, but it's also your home. It's your social network, it's your community. It's more than just you go and get another job. Is that correct?
It certainly is. I mean, there's no argument that the skills that you learn in the military, a lot of them can transfer very easily to civilian employment. But at the same time, right now the unemployment has gone up. People are being fired. There's more people flooding the markets. And it's important to remember that behind every transgender service member, there's family. So it's not just that one individual. We're talking families. We're talking spouses and children and, being uprooted and moving again, or do they or don't they? So it's some tough decisions going on right now.
Yeah. Are there organizations that support trans vets and current trans military personnel?
Yes, the current folks that are serving, there's two major organizations. It's the Modern Military Association of America that does include the entire LGBT community. And the other one is SPARTA, which is really made up of strictly transgender service members and some of us vets. So they play important roles. We have other allies, like the folks that are representing us. It's the National Center for Lesbian Rights is leading the Talbot case. And I think I'm not sure who it is, so I won't speculate on the other one that's out in Seattle.
I have so many questions and we only have time for one more. But I think I'll end with, you talked about the fact that you were fired when you transitioned, but then when you went to Pentagon, you were received with a welcome. So, but at this time, I think what you said is that the trans-military personnel still had to be hidden. So what do you attribute the difference in your reception to?
Well, I think it was mainly that people at the Army Force Management School, people saw me presenting male. I was a male with longer hair and a ponytail, okay? So they knew I was born or assigned male at birth, and then decided I needed to move forward and be who I always have been. And that's the common misconception. We're not trying to be a member of the other sex. We're just trying to align our body to be who we've always known ourselves to be. I knew at five years of age. And at the Pentagon, I don't think anybody knew. And the last question that I usually get is, how can we help? So if folks are interested,
good question.
Stay informed, support, and if you're comfortable, defend trans people and trans rights. I think the Democrats made a mistake. There was $215 million spent on anti-trans ads in just the 7 swing states. And they went largely well, almost entirely unchallenged by the Harris Walz campaigns, and that's a mistake. Clearly. Check in on your trans friends and loved ones, and don't be afraid to let your elected officials know how you feel about trans people who are just human.
Thank you very much. I wish we had more
Sure.
time. I'd really like to talk to you. We're going to transition now to thank you for all you've done. Thank you for your service. Thank you for speaking out for trans military people and for trans civilian people, and for educating us in this on this important issue.
Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Jenna Yeager, who's one of our JEDI task force members. She has a slideshow that she's going to show, and I'd like to tell you that, hold on. Jenna Yeager is a member of our JEDI task force, and she's going to present a short slideshow with transgender people's stories. I want you to note that some of these slides at the end contain a lot of video links. And you'll be receiving copies of these slides later. We wanted to show one of the videos during this presentation, but it would have cost $1,000. So we have to ask you to go and look at it on your own. Two of the people that she will have a story from tonight are Lila and Logan, and the video is called Transgender in War and in Love, and it is their story, and I think it's quite moving, so I would recommend that. So I'll turn it over to Jenna now.
Right. Thank you, Kathy. And again, thank you, Sherry. That was amazing. This presentation in the middle, we wanted to really be flexible. We have a great speaker, Stella Knowles, who's probably going to join us at probably around 6:30. We wanted to leave enough time for him to present what he has. So I will show the slide deck. It will probably be in a bit of a compressed mode, which is fine because we set the program up this way. So I will share the screen here and see if we can get started. And I do not have sound, so I don't have to worry about that part. Okay, what? Okay, let me know what you're seeing here. You should see the
No,
first slide.
It looks good.
Okay, good enough. And the nice tie-in with what Sherry was talking about is we're actually featuring some of the same folks that she's talking about. So we definitely have quite a current theme there. I think you can see this. I've got some stuff in it's presenter. I think it's just in my view. I put it in terms of storytelling. Are you able to see the entire title, The Power of Storytelling?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I got stuff on my screen. Really telling our stories is very important. I mean, we can look back to the petroglyphs and cultures, oral traditions that have existed, for millennia. It's really a way to tell our story, connect and engage with others. And for the trans community, I mean, Sherry's story, exactly, her lived experience is just exactly what we're talking about with storytelling, breaking down the stereotypes, making us seem less the other. And take a look at the last bullet. I'm a very early baby boomer, so a lot of my kind of outreach and stuff as traditional slides and videos and everything else. But I really encourage you to explore other media and podcasts and influencers and all that. And we're just tickled to have Stellan because he's got a great presentation at the end that comes into some of these other platforms that maybe some of us in my generation are not familiar with. This is actually one of the things that Sherry mentioned. We're looking at five folks, just kind of a quick snapshot. Layla was in the U.S. Army and is retired. That's a photo of her there. Her husband is Logan, and he's active duty. And he was actually mentioned a couple minutes ago by Sherry as being one of the litigants in the New Jersey suit. So the links for all these folks are kind of at the end there, as Kathy mentioned. So this is just a short quote. Layla has got a bunch of very compelling narratives out there to talk about. This is one that she posted on her Facebook page a couple weeks ago. It's just the trans people are signing the blank check to they may not come back alive, and they may not come back the same. That's what it means to be in the military, and yet these people are considered not meeting the standards. It just doesn't make any sense. This is a friend, Jessica Taylor, a friend of Sherry's as well. She's the first officer in Alaska Airlines. She's probably been flying like 15 years. A heck of a pilot. Anybody that can fly into Aspen in a regional jet is pretty doggone good. And she was very active, very visible in like 2015. She's kind of just got her tremendous workload right now. One of the things that she did was just incredible back in 2015 was for the bureaucracy, worked with the FAA to get the rules changed as far as medical, excuse me, medical guidelines for commercial pilots. That was a great advance, but with all the things that we're seeing with the administration, it could be that they're going to be looking at FAA, qualifications medical for as well. So that's quite a concern right now. I have not seen that, but I would just expect that might be in the works. Another person that I think Sherry kind of indirectly mentioned is Bree Franck, the astrophysical engineer, the true rocket scientist in the U.S. Space Force. And she's looking at, possible discharge as well. She mentioned the same thing that Sherry did in this comment about if you're allowed to be yourself, serve authentically, you're really a better person, you're a better commander, you have better rapport with your troops. The fourth person, I don't know personally, but seems to have quite a background. Samantha Rose Montemayor Rosales in Los Angeles. She has, I found her information through the Human Rights Commission, which is hrc.org. I don't have we can put that in the chat, that particular link, but at the national level, they've done a tremendous amount with the LGBTQ community. He happens to be in one that's called Elevate. They have a Spanish version and an English version, and actually one of the things that they say, and the description there is our Trans Justice Initiative's new Elevate program advances the leadership of Spanish-speaking trans and non-binary folks by connecting the community members and investing in their professional development and leadership skills. So again, a very, very active, very visible trans person that's serving her community. And the last one we'll go over is a pediatrician in the Army, serving in Texas. He has actually quite a few videos as well. Very compelling, kind of like this is what I want to do. And I love the end here. He's saying, my coworkers know who I am. My loved ones know who I am. I am a doctor. I am trans, and I'm an officer in the U.S. Army. Hooah! So that's a great ending. That's a very Army thing to say. That's what unites the Army folks, and Sherry can speak to that volumes. And this is just at the end of the slide deck that Kathy mentioned. For each of these folks, we have a number of, we have just some representative things here. Kind of get to the end here. Because of our time, I don't know, we had maybe too many questions, but I guess I'd like to just highlight a few things. It really takes courage for everyone in this. There's courage on the part of the active duty and the veterans in military. There's courage on presenters, on the presenters that are here. And there's courage actually for you, the audience there, as Sherry mentioned, speak up if there's somebody with misinformation or really tearing down the trans community or giving all these terrible things about who we are, or monsters, then say something. And I think that would wrap it up for me. Kathy, how are we doing? I'll stop the share.
We have some time, but I just wanted to read you something in the chat that Stellan just entered. Aaron
Okay.
in the morning just shared that Judge Ray's just issued an injunction blocking the ban from going forward at this time. It's a 79-page document and will take some time for details to come out. DOJ attorneys have until March 21st. So it looks like the judge ruled that trans military members may continue to serve. And there's a link in the chat for the full document. So that's good news.
Yes, wonderful.
And actually, Sherry, we have a few minutes if you'd like to make a comment on this.
Yeah, I think it's good news. DOJ attorneys have until the 21st to challenge. There was some concern. They were arguing that if there was an injunction granted, that it would only pertain to the 8 plaintiffs. And I did read in the judge's remark that was not based in fact or common sense. So I'm interpreting that to mean that this is for DOD-wide for every transgender service member. So that's certainly good news as well. And from here, it'll be whether or not they want to take it up and appeal it, which just for comparison's sakes, the ban that was done in 2017 that came out probably in September of 2017, and it didn't get to the Supreme Court until January, or the Supreme Court decision until early of 2019. So if this goes the same route, it could give the folks that are on active duty about 18 months if it's the same timeline. And that would, I'm sure, get a bunch of folks that weren't qualified to retire into the retirement window. So one step at a time. It's really the first battle of the war.
Yes, great.
I would say if you haven't heard or followed Judge Reyes, especially from her February arguments, it's worth looking up and seeing. And Jenna, I can send you 4 pages of transcripts that kind of will give you an idea of how the whole thing went. But when I said it was amateur hour for the DOJ attorneys, it really was, to the point where the lead attorney in the February hearing was now a backseater on last week's hearing. And the lead was so unprepared that, like I say, they had to stop, and the judge actually asked the folks if there was anybody on the team that could answer her questions. And when they said no, that's when she took a 30-minute recess and helped them with the references that they should have had committed to memory before they walked into the courtroom. So anyway, it's a very good start, and we're encouraged, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. And this will now open up the March 25th hearing in Seattle. It will affect that as well. So
It's great news.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Kathy, I'd also like to mention that there's been some questions about links and stuff. I have prepared what is now an 11-page document with transgender resources. It's for right now, it's just posted sort of internally on the League of Women Voters. We have talked to some other the organizations within the state of Colorado, Rocky Mountain Equality, and One Colorado, who's on the call here tonight, to see if any of that information that they can publish. I'm not trying to run my own show here or whatever, but through all the things that I've learned, I've been able to just kind of put that into a document, and it will be shared at some point, I hope, to the general public.
Yeah, and it'll be shared to the people who went to the last presentation, to this presentation, and also we plan to put it on our website, but that'll take a little bit of time. That's at the League of Women Voters of Colorado website. Go to the tab Task Forces and then click down to JEDI Task Force, and it'll be there. So now we're going to have the opportunity to hear from Stellan Knowles. Stellan is a writer, advocate, and community organizer dedicated to amplifying trans voices. He currently serves on the advisory board for the Sam and Devorah Foundation's Trans Mentor Project and has been featured in Focus magazine, which is Memphis's local LGBTQ+ publication. Through storytelling and advocacy, Stellan works to uplift the lived experiences of trans people and foster meaningful conversations on identity, resilience, and community. And Stellan's program tonight is called From Survival to Joy. So Stellan, thanks very much.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be here tonight and speak to you all. So as you may recall, our session this evening is called Transgender People in Their Own Words. So I just wanted to talk about words. Words are powerful. They shape how we understand ourselves and how the world sees us. So for transgender people, words like our names, our pronouns, our language that we use to describe our identities can be life affirming. They can bring clarity, recognition, and a sense of belonging. So words can also confine us. The way that trans people are talked about in the media, in politics, and even in everyday conversation often focuses on the struggle, on hardship, violence, and survival. And while those realities exist, they are not the whole story. Too often what gets left out is the joy of self-recognition, of community, of finally feeling at home in your own body and in the world around you. So why am I talking about this in this time, in this period? I think it's just because I'm a young person and I'm optimistic. I believe that we will survive, that we can survive. And I just don't believe that trans stories are trauma, solely trauma. Trans joy is more than just feeling happiness in one's gender and presentation. It's belonging, it's community, it's revolution and necessity. So I just wanted to take a quick second and provide a little more of an interactive activity. If you are able to, please scan the QR code and it will take you to a page that will offer 3 boxes. You can fill in what comes to mind when you hear the word transgender. And then I'm going to switch screens so that you can see a word cloud. And if you're unable to scan the QR code because you're on your phone currently, please just drop in the chat what words you associate when you hear the word transgender. Prior to being in this workshop, just what comes to mind, because over the course of the 2024 election season, as Dr. Swarovski said, over $215 million was spent on anti-transgender ad campaigns, including pamphlets, lawn signs, TV ads, YouTube videos, to disseminate an unfounded narrative. Excluded, courageous, brave, persecuted, misunderstood, hidden, resilience, creativity, and community. Love that. I'll just give it about a couple more seconds.
Some people would like you to repost the QR code.
Oh, sure. I'm not sure if this is visible enough.
Yeah, that looks
The only
fine.
issue is I can't see the chat. So if any other words are posted there, feel free to shout it out. Affirmative, diverse, tender, challenging. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone's contributions, and going to try to click forward. A Black queer activist known as Lady Phil once said, "We struggle and fight for our joy, an unreserved and unapologetic joy that springs from our ability to live as we are. It's a joy worth fighting for, and it's this joy that links all our struggles together." That joy is real. Studies show that 94% of trans people report greater life satisfaction after transitioning. Now, this was before a certain felon took office, but the truth remains. When trans people are allowed to be themselves, they thrive. So I want to share my story. One of the ways we affirm our existence is through storytelling. Stories help us make sense of who we are. They shape how we connect with others, as I said. They're how we challenge the narratives that have been imposed on us. And that's why I became involved with the Trans Anthology Project, a collection of stories written by trans young people and their parents in our own words, documenting our experiences just beyond hardship. So my primary contribution to this project is a story called The Day I Got a Fade, published as The Runaway. It's about something seemingly simple, a haircut, but for me, it was much more than that. It was a declaration of self, a moment of joy and affirmation. So I'm going to read the story now and share my experience of trans joy, what it looks like, what it means, and why it matters. Friday night, I plot. This week, Out Memphis announced a trans resource fair on Instagram. As soon as I realize there will be free gender affirming haircuts, I'm certain I will be there. I've never once gotten my hair cut before. Short hair has been in the back of my mind since I was little. My thick, long curls did not give me grief until my styles evolved from natural twists and pigtails to butterfly locks and cornrows into a high bun. My hair essentially marked my progression from cutesy girl to young woman. In January, I kept glancing at my video on the screen of my Zoom class. With my face covered in makeup and hair in goddess braids down my back, I felt utterly disgusting. I logged off early, unable to stand the sight of my face for another second. It is November 18th, 2022. I can't drive, even though I'm 20 years old. I also have no in-person friends and barely possess a cell phone. So how will I get to the resource fair? I can only hope social media can pull me through. On Instagram, I spot a post tagged in Memphis, Tennessee. According to the profile, Lavender Sunshine is a non-binary Memphian. I nervously ask if they or any of their friends are interested in attending the fair. They reply, "Baby, need to check my schedule." It's 10:30 p.m., so I have to turn in my phone. In bed, I stare at the ceiling for ages. I hate feeling so unsure of what's to come. Saturday morning, my mom enters my room to check her outfit in my full-length mirror. She's headed to a funeral, an unfortunate norm for her on Saturday mornings. However, it is somewhat fortunate for me because it means I have a better chance of making today's plan a reality. My dad's always been more easily persuaded than mom. After she leaves, I hurry to grab my phone. Yes, they confirmed they're willing to take me today. I shoot them my address and a good time for pickup. If all goes smoothly, I'll be in Lavender's car by noon. So I stroll into my dad's bedroom. "Hey, Dad, I want to get out of the house for an event today." "What'd your mom say?" he asks. "Dunno. She didn't reply to my text," I say, shrugging. "Well, if you don't hear back from her..." I frown. Why can't I ever just leave home because I want to, I wonder. My phone buzzes in my hand. I glance downward. Shit, they're 5 minutes away. "Okay," I say, backing away casually. "I'll just let you get some sleep now." His eyebrow raises slightly, but I ignore it, racing downstairs to grab my jacket when I'm out of view. My hand reaches for the doorknob when my dad suddenly calls my name from the top of the stairwell. My dead name, that is. He says that mom will be home shortly, therefore I should wait. I eye a car pulling up in the driveway through the kitchen window. "Can't," I yell back. "Ride is here." With that, I'm out the door. "Hi, I'm Lavender Sunshine," the brunette-haired driver says to me. "This is my partner, Sal," they add, gesturing to the Black woman wearing a hat and scarf of mixed patterns. And, of course, our friend Zoe. Zoe is a white trans-masculine person around my age, with red bangs swept to the left side of their face. Zoe and Sal share pronouns, and I introduce myself accordingly. As we pull onto the main street, my phone vibrates against my leg. My mom texted, "Your dad said you left home without permission. Where are you and who are you in the car with?" My hand subconsciously reaches to pluck my eyebrow hairs as I consider a response. "You okay?" Zoe asks. I nod and shut down my phone. "Don't worry, we'll have a great time," Lavender says with a smile. I deeply hope she's right. 20 minutes later, Zoe, Sal, Lavender, and I arrive in the building's entryway. Someone gives us a raffle ticket and wristband. We can also pick up any pronoun pins. I look around. There are dozens of vendors' tables and an energized host making an announcement on stage. Someone waves at me. The barber is pretty booked, so my appointment won't happen for another hour at least. I decide to start the legal name change process with the help of the on-site attorney. She asked me to print my full chosen name. Easy. Stella Namir Knowles. She fills out several blanks, asks me to confirm I'm not changing my name to avoid felony charges, and eventually her words become drowned out by the growing volume of my thoughts. I'm actually doing this. I'm actually crowning myself with names that, when combined, mean peace of temperance, prince of temperance. Next, she says I'll have to take this form down to the courthouse, but she mentions out in Memphis could likely help me overcome the financial burden. That puts the biggest grin on my face. Yes, I am doing this. Close to 2 p.m., I'm crossing toward the back of the stage to the small room where hair alterations take place. My mom always insisted short hair wouldn't look good on me, but I'm sitting down before I know it. Sean, the barber, assures me to go for it if this is what I really want. He can take care of the looking good. As he raises the buzzing blade up to my head, someone at the nail table says, "You're getting it cut? But your hair is so long and pretty." I nearly roll my eyes. I want to say, "And that's the problem, actually," but I can't utter a sound. So I just close my eyes and let Sean work his magic. When I reopen them and see the multitudes of hair clumps falling off my shoulders, I get teary. Now I know how Icarus must have felt as his wings brushed the ether. I stand up lighter and freer, unburdened by heavy tresses. Sean gave me a really nice fade on the sides with a tall top. Sal snaps a couple pictures of me coming out the room, and later, when I check them, I see I'm giddily flapping my hands and grinning. I'm not hit with feelings of regret at all. That is, until we pile into the car and I'm faced with the ride home. I try to take a few deep breaths, but we're soon pulling into the driveway. One thing I know for sure is that no one can save me from my parents. So I'll stop there. I really hope you enjoyed so far. And I just want to reiterate that for trans people, many trans people, joy isn't always about grand, sweeping moments. Sometimes it's a haircut, a name, the first time someone gets your pronouns right without hesitation. It's these small affirmations that remind us we are here, we are whole, and we deserve to celebrate that. By the way, if you would like to read more, be sure to check out the Trans Anthology Project on Amazon, Bookshop, or Alstora. So, my apologies. I wanted to switch screens with Jenna so that she can share a brief video that captures different moments of joy in my transition.
I think you may need to stop the share. Yeah, thank you, Stella. That was amazing. Yeah. We during our little practice run, we found that the video that we're going to show is pretty dependent on bandwidth. In the period that I had the better bandwidth, so we can be in the driver's seat a little bit for the video, and hopefully then it'll go a little bit smoother. And I need to make an adjustment here, if it will give me the controls. It keeps disappearing on me. Come on. Okay, that will allow me to share the sound. And go to full screen. How are we doing, everyone? Can we get the video and the audio?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have video and audio both?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Just got my testosterone, going inside to take a shower and put that baby on. Let's go.
Okay, back to you. That's such a marvelous clip.
Thank you for sharing that, Jenna. Really
Yes.
appreciate it. Gonna get this back up. So what you just saw, that's trans joy. It's real, it's powerful, and it's often missing from public conversations about transgender lives. Instead, most of what you hear about trans people focuses on sports and bathroom bills, supposed ideology being taught in schools, and worst case scenarios. But if we weren't being continually attacked, trans people wouldn't wake up every day thinking about policies or debates. We'd wake up just living our lives. And those lives include joy, laughter, community, and love. That's why storytelling is so important. Jenna mentioned the value of storytelling, and trans people telling our own stories will save our lives. Imara Jones. I'm sure the journalist professes this because if we don't tell our own stories, someone else will, and they might not get it right. In her research, social worker Ashley Austin analyzes the impact of community and social connection on the trans population, explaining that evidence has suggested that positive connection to a supportive community and a sense of social connectedness may be particularly important sources of well-being for members of the transgender community. That is, a positive and encouraging environment, likely of similarly identified or like-minded people, increases resilience against negative external factors. Joy isn't just about self-discovery. As I said, it's about connection, finding people who see you, love you, and celebrate you for who you are. I wrote a poem called Pride about that feeling, about self-love, love from others, and the joy of being seen. I'd love to share it with you now. You say you see me, you cherish me, you just wish I could be a steady presence in our family, a hardy carrier of our legacy. So I try, I show up proud, only for you to cast me away. In the depths of your attic, I whistle a solemn tune. My mouth goes dry as my tears collect dust. I am boxed in, buried, and forgotten. Summer turns to winter. I notice the items around me beginning to shimmer. A hot pink sash once placed over a black and silver suit. The orange t-shirt I once wore to the family reunion full of people I'd never met. Connection and healing at the Black Trans Advocacy Conference. The yellow bottle of lemon soap I was gifted for serving as a storyteller on a sunny Saturday during Trans Awareness Week. The green hiking shoes I wore to traverse the ranch. It was wet and cold and worth my while, exploring masculinity in the mountains of Colorado. Turquoise paintbrushes used to compete for a trans and disability art show, a flower struggling to stay rooted and petalful in the acid rain. The velvety indigo bag containing a harmonious relationship with my body. Before tea, I wondered if I would ever appreciate a mirror. A violet weighted eye mask, which once smelled heavenly. I began using it after top surgery when sleep didn't come easy. It still soothes my spirits now, almost as well as my lovely girlfriend, Violet. After acknowledging everything in gratitude, I rise to my feet. Lemon and lavender whirling round me, paintbrushes brandished to clear the musk. The shirt and sash slip over my head. I lace up my shoes. The medicine bag glides as if pulled by its drawstrings. They wrap my wrist and lead me to the window. I open it and fly on the wings of pride. So this piece was inspired by the original LGBT pride flag, with each color having a different meaning, symbolizing sexuality, life, healing, sunlight, nature, art, harmony, and spirituality. So, what does all of this mean? It means that transgender people are not just stories of struggle. We are joy, we are creativity, we are love. Trans joy doesn't exist in a vacuum. If I can leave you with anything, it's this. Trans joy flourishes when trans people are supported, affirmed, and given the space to live freely. And that's where you come in. Challenge one-dimensional narratives. Trans lives are about more than struggles. Acknowledge the struggles, but also uplift our stories of joy. Respect names, pronouns, and identities, even if they evolve over time. Support trans creators and storytellers, because representation matters when it's in our own words. Speak up against misinformation and discrimination, especially when trans voices aren't in the room. And think about, how can I help center trans joy in the way I move through the world? Thank you for being here today, for listening, for being open to hearing these stories. And most importantly, thank you for believing in a world where everyone gets to experience joy.
Thank you, Stellan. That was awesome. I think it's nice to end on the joy in being able to be your authentic self. Your personal story was amazing, and we could really see the joy on your face. We could see how much it mattered to be able to be who you really were. And that is an incredible gift. So thank you very much for that. That's the end of our program, unless somebody has, sorry, I got the wrong place. If anybody has a question and you'd like to raise your hand and ask it, that would be great for either of our speakers. We have some questions in the chat about your book. Trans Anthology Project is the title of the book. And could you tell us again where they could buy that book?
Yes, it's available on Amazon, Allstora, and bookshop.org.
I know a lot of people will like to hear other people's stories. It really does change the narrative when we think about the joy of someone living their authentic self. And I know that Sherry talked about how she felt she would have been a better leader if she was allowed to be her authentic self. And it's wonderful to know that some people have chosen that at such a young age and will be able to fulfill their full potential. So thank you. We have a lot of comments in the chat. So I'd like everybody who would like to stay on and take a look at the chat. I'd like both of our speakers to stay on and see the chat, because there's a lot of comments of people thanking you very much for sharing your stories and participating in this program. We are going to have one more presentation in the series. The third presentation will be on allies and advocates. When we finalize the date for that, we'll let everyone know. We'll send you an email. And so thank you. Thank you, Sherry, and thank you, Stellan. This was a great program, and really made us aware of what we could do. So would anybody else have a question that they'd like to ask? Okay, I think we're going to end it. And so anybody who'd like to take a look at the chat, please stay on. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone's contributions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stella. Thank you, Sherry. It was amazing program, and seeing Stella's joy, you could just see how much is lost when we prevent people from being their authentic selves, and the amount of expertise and leadership ability that's lost by trying to hide people from their true selves. If we were able to all feel that joy, our world would be a much better place.
Yes, I agree. It's, I've been doing this a long time, and there's nothing that makes me happier than realizing that the trans youth of today will be able to spend the vast majority of their years as their authentic self.
Yes.
Yeah, and the difference from when you and I grew up.
Didn't even have a word for it then.
No, it was just, you couldn't, it was just incomprehensible. You just knew that something was wrong. Sherry, thanks very much, Stella. Thank you so much.
Yes,
It was wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank
Jenna,
you.
as well.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for the opportunity.
This
Take
is
care, everyone.
my sister. She's sick, and I think she has a question.
Hello, I do.
Oh,
I'm curious, we're Kathy and I are Army brats. And growing up as military kids, in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, this would not have been talked about in the military. It would certainly not have been accepted in the military from my perception as a kid. And I'm curious as to, like, are we reverting back to that? Or are we, I don't know. I guess I'm just curious as to what the attitudes really are, which I know you addressed some of, but I'm wondering about a general sense of the military's acceptance of transgender people. Because I was surprised to hear you say that the Pentagon was the place where you were accepted the most. Or found acceptance.
Yeah, happy to tell you what I know. And it's not firsthand evidence, but it's from someone who I trust implicitly. And she said that within the building, meaning the Pentagon, the senior leaders, military leaders, are all supportive of the trans service members in uniform. They know that this new directive is just BS. They
Right.
know it's not accurate. And, from continuing to read Judge Reyes's ruling, she pretty much knows it and has thrown it right back at them in so many words that it's BS.
Okay.
So, yeah, but the issue there is that the nation is founded on one of the principles is that the military is subordinate to the civilian leadership. So I don't think people realize what they're doing when they go into the voting booth.
I don't think they connected. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the vast
Exactly.
majority of people are never directly affected by
Right.
anyone that they vote for, and especially at the national level. But
Mhm.
that's not true with minority groups. And right now, the trans folks are in the crosshairs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
What
guess the other thing I found was that, or at least this was my, again, a kid's impression was, it was more important that you could do your job and do it well than a lot of other things. But that may be my naive kind of view of the world there.
I think there was still a lot of struggle over just having Black people in the military in the officer corps when we were
Right.
growing.
But that had changed by the time I came along.
Yeah.
So,
What
yeah,
a-
okay.
What
I'm
about
just
the
curious.
other service members' attitude? Because I got the sense from watching some of the videos that they're pretty accepting sometimes.
My research found that, when I did my dissertation research, I interviewed 5 individuals.
Mhm.
So we had representation from officer and enlisted, and we had all the services. And what the impression I was left with from talking to them, that they were supported, fully supported by the folks that they worked with and the folks of their unit. Once you got out further away to higher headquarters, and even what I was shocked by was even with the medical community, there were so many of them that were biased against trans people. So the folks that see them, work with them on a day-to-day basis, they know their capabilities, they should be the best judge, and they were almost entirely supportive throughout the whole thing.
Stellan, do you find a lot of support in your age group?
I do. I think it's pretty incredible, like how many youth are affirming and supportive of trans people. I know that appears to be changing in terms of more Gen Z young men are conservative leaning, voted conservatively, and are anti-LGBT. But in my own circles and with many of the youth that I talk to, we find support.
That's good to know.
And this may be too nosy of a question, and if it is, feel free to say it's too nosy. What's your relationship like now with your parents? Have they come around to support you or not?
They haven't. Yeah, I'm waiting on the day, I suppose.
Yeah. Hang in there.
I'm from
Yeah, definitely.
Tennessee, so they're very entrenched in the Bible Belt.
Okay.
Hey, Stellan, I want to offer a word of support. When I came out, I was close to I had 2 brothers, and one seemed to be accepting. It turned out he wasn't. The other one was not accepting, said some horrible things to me when I came out. And we were estranged for, I want to say 11 years, maybe 12. And I happened to be back in their neighborhood in September, and I reached out to them. And he accepted my invitation to come and talk about moving forward. So just keep that in mind. There's always a possibility, and I was happily surprised that he came around.
That's
Wish you the best.
beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. And if they could see the joy on your face, I'm sure they would at least be reminded of how much they love you. So,
Yeah.
Well, thanks you guys. Thank you so much for doing this, telling your story to a bunch of old
Yes.
people. and yeah, please. I know that we've had 6 anti-trans bills in the Colorado legislature this session, but so far they're mostly being beaten back. So hopefully we'll be able to continue it in the school system where it's really important to set that environment so that people grow up knowing that it's important to be yourself, and that's all anyone could ask for.
Kathy, it's Governor Paulus, right?
Yeah, Governor Paul.
Yeah, I met him a number of years ago. If he needs any encouragement about standing in the trench with
Right.
our team, have him call Governor Evers.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks.
That's why I say that we're refugees from Florida, because we actually had to get out because we couldn't stand it there anymore.
Understand. Kathy, thanks for all you've done. Jenna, thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, Jenna,
Stellan,
thank
we
you.
wish you very, very good things. You know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you, Jenna.
Thanks,
and
Sherry.
Kathy.
Okay, thanks, Stella. Thanks,
You
Jerry.
all.
Thanks,
Take good
thanks
care.
everyone for coming.
Jenna, this was awesome. You did a great job.
Well,
I agree.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Takes a bit to put these together, and I'm glad it came out.
And don't forget to take a look at the chat because everybody will see what a great job you did. I want you to know that people appreciate it.
Okay.
And I see
Wonderful.
Hyla. Hey, Hyla.
Hi,
Hey, Kathy, it is so good to listen to some sanity. And Stellan, I was a teacher for 41 years, a school administrator, and I just sat here and smiled at your joy and your bravery, and honestly, your acceptance of yourself, your knowledge of yourself, and not letting anyone talk you out of that. Anyone. So I live in the great state of Florida. We are struggling here. Kathy was my friend here. We were in the league together. And I'm thrilled to see what Colorado is doing. And I love coming to these meetings because for me, it's more like a normal world.
Yeah.
You'll have to come visit us.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. But
Well,
thank you. And
have to come in the summertime because of the weather. So maybe late summer because I'm having knee surgery in May.
a replacement.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll get through it. But anyway, I was sitting here thinking, gosh, it's like I'm getting to visit with Kathy and then Sue. And it's 9 o'clock here. It's 9, whatever 9 it is. We're early. But I love Zoom because you can close your video and eat your dinner and listen to everything and learn a lot of stuff and see your friends. And I guess the good thing that came out of COVID.
There you go.
Thank you all for the work for the work you're doing in this area and in other areas. I started out the evening with ICE in education, and there's just a lot going on that shouldn't be. So
Yeah, we had a woman who she spent a couple years in a sanctuary in a couple of churches back during Trump's first term, and they detained her last night.
oh no.
She's been here, I don't know, decades, and has done all kind of good work for the community. But she spoke out, and so
It's insane. And this is America,
you know,
and you anyway,
yeah.
we keep our hope. And nights like tonight give me hope. Jenna,
Yeah.
you're a great moderator and keeping things going. And Kathy, the quality of your questions and the sensitivity of your questions, very impressive and respectful to the audience.
Well, thank you. Jenna did a great job. She's a real important part of our team. So she does almost all the work on LGBTQ.
I could tell Jenna had put a lot in, and I think at one time 50 something people. So I'm glad that it had a big impact.
Yeah. We
We'd
got
like to see 500 or 5,000, but maybe that day will come.
Yeah. Okay.
We
Take
need
care.
a bigger Zoom link then.
Take care, Hala.
You all too. I'm going to bed.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay, I'm gonna end the meeting. So thanks very much. I'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll get the slides and send them out. And if you have the resources ready to go, I can send those out in the same email.
I thought she was on vacation.
Who's on vacation? You're on vacation? No, that was Shauna.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So do you think you can are those pretty much ready to go out, or should I wait?
I think I'll just send you the one, which is sort of the master one. It's got the teen pool dessert, 11. So that's in pretty good shape. One that Sherry mentioned, was not on there, so I think I'll add that. Do you want that, tonight or tomorrow?
No, like, listen, it'll be a while, so, Thursday or
Okay.
so.
Okay, yeah,
Don't
I'll
don't
probably do
feel like you have to
probably do that.
kill yourself to get it done. You've done
Say
a
what?
lot. Don't feel like you have to kill yourself to get it done. You've done a lot, so just
Okay,
when you get to it, just let me know
okay.
whether or not to send it
Yeah,
out.
I think I'll just do that one document. That's sort of the main one, and then we can talk about the other three.
Okay,
Excuse me.
okay. So go home,
Thank,
have a
okay,
glass of wine, have a nice dinner, and thanks so much. You did a great job.
okay.
Bye.
Thank you as well. Okay.